Front-end loaders and dump trucks, mobile cranes and forklifts. There are more than 2,000 motorized vehicles in the City of Milwaukee fleet, another 1,500 non-motorized pieces of equipment. Their maintenance and repair is the responsibility of the Public Works Fleet Division.
We're large and we're diverse. We don't have all buses. We don't have all over-the-road trucks like a private trucker would have that is in interstate commerce. They're limited to tractor-trailer trucks for the most part. We have a little bit of everything and some very specialized equipment.
And there are many other examples. Sweepers to keep our streets clean, special rakes for leaf pickup, and large vacuum trucks to take away debris, recycling packers and garbage trucks, special trucks which send cameras into city sewers, a propane-powered truck to bring hot asphalt for potholes, special vans to pick up stray or dangerous animals, and of course snowplows and salt trucks for those winter storms.
And then we go into our emergency repair service mode during a snowstorm, where we allow the trucks to come in primarily on the other side of the garage, and they're fixed right in the alley. They don't even pull into stalls. The windshield wipers are changed, heaters are fixed, the lights are changed, light bulbs, a lot of quick repairs. Sometimes a plow won't go up and down, and it just takes a little service. So the whole idea is to keep things on the road as much as possible. Of our 500 or so plows, probably half of them will need some kind of service. The blades need to be changed, some will need welds. There's a great deal of activity here after a snowstorm.
Fleet Services is putting some new equipment into service this winter to improve its snow and ice control operations, including 10 new trucks equipped with an underbody plow.
These new plows will plow up to a foot of snow, and the plow is located in the middle of the truck underneath. And it does several things. It provides for a safer environment for plowing. Secondly, it's instantly available because it's always mounted. All you have to do is lower it to plow. And the third thing is it can cut down on salt, because these are on our salters. These 10 trucks will not have to spread as much salt because they'll be able to push some of the snow that otherwise they would be trying to melt to the side of the road. So we feel it's better for the environment. It will give us a quicker response time. And that's one of the new pieces of equipment. Another new piece of snow equipment is trucks outfitted with brine tanks. These are tanks that will wet the salt as it leaves the truck. What we do now is we take the whole hopper and we spray calcium chloride on it, especially when it's colder, to give the salt a head start. It's only the brine, not the hard salt, that melts the snow. So, and what happens is sometimes it congeals in the truck if you don't get it spread fast enough, and then you have a mess when you have to have people in there with ice picks making this one big blob of salt into pellets again. But with the brine tanks, you could spread the calcium chloride on the salt as it's distributed to the street. It's much more effective, it's much more economical.
It's not just the familiar yellow vehicles that keep city mechanics busy. They're also responsible for many other city cars and trucks, including over 600 police vehicles. This diverse fleet needs a diverse workforce.
Well, our mechanics have to be jacks of all trades. They are specialized into two categories. You have the light side and the heavy side. And the heavy equipment mechanics, they might specialize a little bit there. Some might work primarily on compressors. Others might work primarily on the brooms, the street sweepers. But they all have to be able to fix a variety of trucks. We have to do a lot of training, especially with when we get newer vehicles and there are computerized parts. There are parts that are electronic that are replacing mechanical parts. There's a good deal of training that has to go on here as well.
Rather than paging through repair manuals and service bulletins, city mechanics will soon have a computerized vehicle repair manual at all their workstations, with access to all vehicles sold in the last 20 years.
It's just a fantastic resource. It has all the schematics, and people can zoom in, and it gives you part numbers, and it gives you replacements. It's kept up to date 4 times a year. It's a terrific tool. Otherwise, we'd have to have a staff of full-time librarians to keep track of all of that. And we didn't in the past, and so there was some groping around. Now we feel that we're better prepared to service all those vehicles.
The Central Repair Garage in the Menominee Valley is Fleet Services' largest facility, although repair and preventative maintenance work is done at 4 locations on 2 shifts. They also make about 12,000 field service calls a year.
We'll send a mechanic right into the field to fix that, so that we don't have a couple of hours of downtime because the truck has to travel into the garage and then back to the site. We can service the truck right out there on the city streets. We also make about 6,000 tire calls a year.
Those 6,000 tires came from the city's own tire service, which mounted over 14,000 tires in 1996. The Fleet Division took care of another 16,000 repair orders, plus over 6,500 preventive maintenance inspections. Supplies, parts, and equipment come from the city's own stockrooms.
You drive down the street and you say, oh, there's a dump truck doing some work, or oh, there's somebody picking up garbage. And I don't think people realize how much work has to go in there, and it has to go off flawlessly for the most part in order for the garbage to be picked up on time, which it usually is, and for the streets to be repaired, and for the water main breaks. There's a lot of work that goes into this. We're behind the scenes. We're a support agency. Without us, I don't think the rest of the Department of Public Works would be able to do as fine a job as they do.
Those few moments that you gain in not stopping for a red light could result in the loss of a life.
It has abruptly ended my career as a surgeon.
It's been absolutely devastating to me. Yeah.
They should always be aware of red lights. We have them, you should be aware of them, and you should stop. It's as simple as that.
Those 4 were directly affected by drivers who ran red lights. They agreed to participate in the public service campaign in hopes their involvement would change driver attitudes.
I'd like to say that the main reason I'm here is pretty obvious. I lost my wife back in July because somebody went through a red light. And if I can help prevent some other family from suffering the way my family has suffered because of this, then I feel like I've done a good thing.
Pat?
I'm an intersection accident survivor. I had an accident in 1978 that left me paraplegic. And my message is simply that it doesn't pay to hurry. Those few moments that you gain could result in the loss of a life or a lifetime of loss. And it doesn't pay.
The campaign to reduce red light running accidents is one of many public education efforts of the City of Milwaukee Safety Commission. 18 volunteer members appointed by the mayor, confirmed by the Common Council.
They all have a real concern about safety, all coming from a different aspect of safety, and have something to contribute and to make Milwaukee a better place to live.
It's the Safety Commission's duties to give the greatest possible publicity to matters of safety and convenience of the public. They're also to advise the Common Council, Mayor, the Police Chief, Commissioner of Public Works, and other city department heads on matters of safety.
How does the Commission do that? With a variety of public education safety campaigns in schools, homes, industry, and on the job. There's a special emphasis in the area of traffic safety.
The leading cause of unintentional injury is motor vehicle crashes. It costs more lives and causes more injury than any other, by far, any other type of injury. So it's only natural that we spend the great majority of our time with traffic safety. in more recent years, we've had a tremendous success in reducing vehicle accidents. There are a number of reasons why this happened. We'd like to think that we're in part responsible for it, but we know that we have a lot of partners out there in the community that are making it happen too. Alcohol crashes in the city of Milwaukee have decreased by half within the past 10 years. Speed-related crashes are down by a third in the past 8 years.
It's the Safety Commission that makes available the speed display boards for neighborhoods. The Commission played a role in reducing school bus accidents by taking part in the School Bus Safety Task Force.
With the schools in traffic, we concern ourselves with crossing guards. The full-time staff people will come to us and say, we need a crossing guard at a particular corner. And they make the study, they present the facts to us. We make a recommendation if a guard should be placed at that site or should not be placed. There's also bicycle safety that we're concerned about, and we work very closely with the police department. Smoke detectors are something that we stress very strongly, work very closely with the fire department on. And we also then put together and work with the fire department on the Survive Alive House so that the youngsters can get some training in how to get out of a house in case their house becomes a ball of fire.
I look at our role as sort of the Tom Sawyer to get others to help us to whitewash that fence. It's a big job, there's just a few of us, and it's important that the community owns the traffic safety program and the safety programs that go on. We have our 18 citizen members, but we also have 10 advisors, and the advisors are people involved in various aspects of safety. They're from the police department, fire department, traffic engineers, county traffic engineering, the State Office for Transportation Safety, Business Against Drunk Driving, and the municipal courts. Almost every area of expertise that you can think of that affects traffic safety or any type of safety is on our advisory board or on our commission.
They're grateful for what Milwaukee is all about. And I think if you would talk to any of them, they'd say anything that we can do, that we can give to our community, to give back, not just in paying taxes, but that we can give back and to share any expertise that we have makes us feel better. And that's what we're all about.
The city treasurer is the chief investment and revenue collection officer of the city of Milwaukee. Many city residents only stop here once a year during December to pay property taxes. But the office does much more than collect cash from property taxpayers and pay the city's bills. It has three main functions.
One obviously would be the receipt and accounting for all monies owed to the city and the disbursement of those funds. And obviously between the time of receipt and disbursement, another major function of the office is investment of those idle funds, which obviously is a substantial amount of money. And then we get into the other category of enforcement that we have a section here in the office that works with our taxpayers that might have their account go delinquent. And obviously, if in the long term, if the taxes are not paid, the city will pursue acquiring those properties in court.
Collecting property taxes for the city and 5 other units of government is the most visible action of the treasurer's office, as thousands line up here every year. But you don't have to. The bills are now mailed out and can be mailed back.
When I first took over the office, everyone had to come down to City Hall, get in line, pick up their tax bill, then they had to get in another line, pay the tax bill. And I thought it would be better to mail out all of the bills, and it's worked rather well. In fact, we get a lot of compliments. The staff is very good here in processing the tax payments. So basically what we do, we make it like paying a utility bill.
Property tax payments, state aids, fines, and fees add up to quite a bit of money. As Treasurer Widow mentioned, the second major function of his office is to invest, on a short-term basis, the surplus cash not needed for immediate bills.
It's a substantial amount of money that we have in idle funds. For 1998, we're projecting we'll have an average daily balance of probably around $260 million. We try to invest that money, and we do invest it in very safe investments, and we have to take into consideration, obviously, the safety of the money, the liquidity of the money, because the city must pay its bills like everyone else, and then we consider the rate of return. And it's really in that order that we invest these funds. Safety is the most important thing to us.
Investment earnings reduce the tax levy to the tune of millions of dollars a year. 2/3 of those earnings go into the general fund to reduce the tax rate. That's an estimated $9.8 million for 1998, about the average for the last 5 years. That third major function mentioned by the treasurer involves helping property owners who may have a problem paying the annual tax. The office does occasionally have to foreclose on a home, but it's a last resort.
We don't want anyone's property. Our role is to collect the taxes on the property. So there's sometimes various reasons why someone might go delinquent. They may be unemployed temporarily, maybe there's a health problem in the home, which is costly to them, so their taxes will go delinquent for a short term. We try to work with those people.
Wayne Widow has held the elective office of treasurer since 1976. Prior to that, he spent 15 years in the state legislature.
I've enjoyed politics. In my college days, I majored in business, but I minored in political science. So from a very young age, I had an interest in public life.
Now that question posed earlier. Why are checks for property taxes made out to Wayne Widow? It's a historical tradition for one reason, but it doesn't have to be made out that way.
It lets the people know who they can contact, and they do in many cases contact me directly. And it's something that's historical. However, if a check is made out to the city treasurer, if it's made out to City of Milwaukee, just city, we cash that check.
Walking upstairs is a great exercise for some people, but if you don't want to do that or can't, elevators are a great invention. When you board the elevator, your thoughts are probably on where you're going, not on whether it will be a safe trip. It's something you don't have to worry about. The city does that for you.
I've worked for the City of Milwaukee 25 years. Previous to this, I installed elevators for Westinghouse for about 20 years. I am the lead elevator inspector for the City of Milwaukee.
John is one of 3 elevator inspectors. Every year, they take a close look at every one of the more than 3,000 elevators in the City of Milwaukee. There are 2 main types, hydraulic and cable.
The cable type have elevators attached on top, go up over the top of the machine, they get attached to counterweights. The machine is in the overhead, does the lifting and lowering of the elevator. We look on these, after this car is running, to check the backside of these cables to make sure there's no rust or nothing coming through on these cables. We check for oil leaks underneath here, around here. We also look at this cable over here to make sure it's not frayed in any parts. We can tell by just visually looking at it if it's got a frayed cable or not. This is your selector cable that stops the elevator at the landings. We look to see if there's any broken parts or anything else that's up in here, pieces laying there. We look at the cables to see if they're frayed, rusty, or anything else like that. And we look at the cables on the back side over here also to see that they're not frayed, rusty, or anything else. Okay. Also, while we're up here, we check this tag to see that it's current. All cable elevators have to be tested once every 5 years, are required by a state code. Where they test the elevator every 5 years with a loaded capacity on the elevator itself. We give a visual check of these nuts and bolts. We tie them on our fingers to see they're loose. hold it. And we check to make sure that all the cotter pins are on the shackles there for the cables there. Make sure they're all double nutted and the cotter pins are in there. We check the elevator pits, see there's water in the pit, and also there's any dirt down there, newspapers and stuff like that. You have to clean everything out of here. It's a code requirement also. It spells it right out. Pits shall be kept clean at all time and dry.
While there are differences in the types of elevators, the process is similar, as inspectors look in, on, and under the elevators.
The hydraulic elevator is hooked on by a piston with the pumps the oil into the cylinder, pushes the elevator up, and on the way down it opens the valve and then it comes down by gravity. That's one-piece cylinder, one-piece piston. How high you go, that's how deep in the ground you go. Some newer ones are coming out now, they got what they call telescopic, but this vintage is still one piece. All sections are screwed together.
John says for the most part, city elevators are in good operating condition. And he says you don't have to worry about the kind of elevator drops you see in the movies.
If there's a safety device on the elevator that's working properly, an elevator cannot fall. After it gets up to a rated speed, which the governor set at, it'll automatically dig into the rails and the car will sit right there.
No matter how high it is?
No matter how high the building it is. Each elevator has a safety device and a governor on it.
City laws also require other safety devices, including what's called a fireman's service.
You put a key in the car, you can turn it over. Now the firemen have control of the elevator. They can take the elevator up as they are needed.
Telephones are also installed. These are everywhere they're required.
Any elevator installed today is required to have two-way communication. It's a code requirement. For handicapped people, they have to have a handicap phone.
City elevator inspectors also examine handicap lifts and escalators. They say Milwaukee buildings have a good history of compliance with city codes, partly because they are on the job.
There's a need for the inspection service, this is correct. The elevator should be inspected once a year. There's no getting away from that.
If you think there's a problem with the elevator in your building, first call the manager, then building inspection if the problem continues. Elevators go back at least 87 years in Milwaukee. The former PV Atlas buildings had some of the first, dating back to 1910.
Everything is different, for the better, always for the better, for the individuals riding the elevator.